Great. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. I think others will be joining, but we have a lot to cover, so I want to go ahead and get started. So again, so excited to have you all here, and we'll just ask if you're not speaking, at least to us, if you can just put yourself on mute so we can all hear each other well, and then you'll have time to unmute when if you have any questions later. But welcome all to this training about the child tax credit. So excited to have you here. I wanted to note at the bottom, you'll see the ability to have closed captions. If you click that and then hit show subtitles, so if you prefer to have that, that's also an option here. And we will be doing a presentation about the child tax credit, and then we'll invite people to put questions in the chat during the training. And then once we get to the Q&A, feel free to unmute yourselves or go through the chat. But I want to start by introducing Liz Gillum from Lutheran Services in America, with whom we're co-hosting this event. Really excited to be doing this with you, and I'll pass it over to you, Liz.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julia. Yeah, we're equally as excited for this. Got some background noise. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. And yeah, as Julie mentioned, my name is Liz Gillum. I'm Program Associate at Lutheran Services in America. So just, yeah, really thank you so much for joining this webinar today as part of our Strength and Service series for 2022. The Strength and Service series really is a ongoing kind of virtual gathering in which we really strive to move our member organizations forward by discussing either new or just evolving practices, resources, information, or examining some issues in today's climate. So today's webinar, led by the Coalition on Human Needs, to share their experience on, yeah, really how to help the families you may work with claim the full 2021 child tax credit, and really how to work with them to really gain that critical benefit. So yeah, just thank you all for your time. Thank you, Alicia and Kim, for your support, and of course, Julia and Deborah for sharing your expertise with us. And thank you to the Partnership for America's Children, who I know has been working collaboratively with Julia on this outreach. So we're really looking forward to today. So with that, I think we can jump right in, and I'll hand it over to Debbie to get started.
Thanks so much. Very much appreciate that, Liz and Alicia, and all of you. We are very proud to have this opportunity to get out this information. And so I'm tell you about the organizations we're with in a second, but I'll be doing part of the presentation, and Julia Beebe, who you just heard from, will be doing the second part. But so just to let you know who we are, the Coalition on Human Needs is an alliance of national groups, including service providers, faith groups, many others. And our mission, we've been going 40 years now, has been to advocate on the federal level to assist people with low incomes. And I'm proud to say that Lutheran Services in America is one of our members. So you can go to the next slide. And we're doing this in collaboration with Partnership for America's Children, as Liz mentioned. And the partnership is a wonderfully helpful organization in this, in that they have member child advocacy organizations in 40 states. And so we've been able to partner with them in this outreach effort that we're undertaking. So we can go to the next one. So what is next? Thank you. So we have a tremendously important expansion of the child tax credit that was enacted for the 2021 tax year. And that's, of course, the period that people are now filing their taxes for. So it's very significant. It would reduce poverty and has already reduced poverty for the time it's been in place so far, ultimately by about 40%, almost half, projected to lift lift approximately 1.1 million children above half the poverty line. So it gets lots of children out of poverty, reduces the extent of poverty for more. So it's so important that we make sure that everybody who's entitled to this credit get it, and you can help. If you want to go to the next slide. So here's the levels of eligibility. $3,600 per child up to age 5, $3,000 per child age 6 through 17. So it's an increase of what was before. A very critical change is that people with no incomes, no earnings, can qualify for the full credit. That's extremely important. That means that those dollar amounts I just mentioned are available no matter how poor the family is, which was not the case in the past. So go to the next one. So here's an example. One parent or adult with 3 children of different age levels. Together, that 3,600 plus 3,000 plus 3,000, that's $9,600 that family can get. They may also be eligible for other credits if they didn't get the third economic stimulus payment. They can get that, but they have to file a tax form to do it. So go to the next slide. So if families had previously filed tax forms, they were automatically enrolled in getting advance payments. But not everyone did that because people hadn't filed taxes. If people's incomes are low enough, they're not required to file tax forms, and they may not have been known to the IRS. We think around 4 million or so children were at risk of missing out on those payments. They could have signed up, and we in many groups were helping them sign up to get those advance monthly payments that were occurring between July and last December, but we didn't reach everybody. And there still are millions of families, we think, or children who have not received this payment. You know, of course, the poor, communities of color, disproportionately likely to be missing out. And that's where we need your help. If they didn't receive any of those payments, the monthly payments, they will get the sum total, say that 3 kid family that we just talked about, all of that $9,600 in a refund. If they were getting advance payments, they'll still get half. So you can go to the next slide. So who's eligible for these thousands of dollars? The adults in the family who are claiming the children can have either a social security number or an individual taxpayer ID number, the ITIN. So that means that immigrant parents or caregivers can claim the child tax credit because they're the ones who use those ITINs, but all the children must have social security numbers in the law as it's enacted. It doesn't have to be a parent and child. It could be all kinds of familial relationships, as you see on the screen there, grandchildren, stepchildren, younger brothers or sisters, or their descendants, or a foster child placed by a government agency. And the key element here with all of those relationships, if that child lived with the adult for more than half the year, they are eligible, as long as the child didn't provide over half their own support, which would not usually be the case. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so I mentioned the idea of the advanced CTC payments, child tax credit payments. For people who had signed up or who were automatically getting it, they were receiving between $250 and $300 per child over the course of July through December. That would be per month, but over the course of the 6 months, they would have been receiving half the total payment. So again, if it's a child that was under 6 and the total amount that they're owed is $3,600, they would have gotten $1,800. But if they didn't get anything, they'll need to file a tax form. But even if they did get half that amount, to get the full amount, they have to file a tax form. So that complicates life, and we can help people get connected to get the help filing. You could go to the next one. So the tax filing season began 24th of January. People who are legally obliged to file, if they have sufficient income or earnings, their deadline for filing is April 18th. And it's worth noting that if they're not obliged to file because their incomes are very low, there's no deadline. At least they can go through the end of the calendar year. So let's bear that in mind. We haven't lost our chance to get people this money. If they're very poor, don't have to file. But if we miss convincing them in this earlier period, we still have a shot at getting them their money. So the key way we are trying to get people this help is to connect them to an online portal, which is getyourrefund.org. That'll be available through the fall, so past that deadline. And we will, the key thing that we're trying to connect people to is free tax preparation help. Those sites are open, the VITA sites. There may be an additional simplified filing portal in May. We expect that. And that's part of our second round of helping people to get assistance. So you can go to the next slide. So here I have been telegraphing that one of the most important things that we can do is to connect people with tax preparation help. If at all possible, free, reliable tax preparation help. And so what you can do to help folks that you're in contact with is to tell them to go to the website that you see there in the top bullet, this www.getyourrefund.org. And that will connect people to three, it's in English or Spanish, it will connect people to three choices, really. Some are perfectly able to do their own taxes with do-it-yourself online filing services. That's one of their choices. Some will find it most convenient to do it online, but they could use the help of an actual person over the phone. That's another option, that they'll see these choices once they go to this website. And the third is, if they prefer in-person assistance, they can sign up. They will be told where their local VITA site is, and they can sign up to go there in person. So next slide. So the VITA sites are the ones that are kind of top on our list in terms of availability all over the place, but it's not the only form of free, reliable tax assistance. AARP also does that. They do focus on individuals who are over age 50, but not exclusively. They will serve people who have low to moderate income, even if they're younger than that. So that's another source that you can connect people to. And the other source that shows at the bottom, for the people who have disputes with the IRS and who need a little extra help, the low-income taxpayer clinics, and that's the link to show where they are in each state, can help people. And again, these are meant for people with low income who wouldn't be able to just go to a tax attorney. So you can go to the next one. We know, however, that it's not always going to be all that easy for people to connect with the free tax preparation help. And it obviously is highly desirable if they can connect with all the services I just mentioned. But if it doesn't turn out to be convenient, you know, when we're talking about potentially thousands of dollars, it's certainly worth it to pay a tax preparer rather than just leave that money on the table. So there's guidance from the IRS, and there's this link. And I know you're just seeing all these things, but we assure you, you will get access to all these materials with the live link so you can get it. But that's where you can see guidance from the IRS to avoid scams and pick a reliable paid preparer. Recording and slides will be shared, Julia is reminding us, which is great. So knowing that some families, our immigrant families, need that ITIN that I mentioned, the individual tax ID number, that this gives information on the process that has to be followed in order to get one of those ITINs. And there's more information here, just kind of going through this fast, but we have the resources here as to how families can sign up to get the ITIN. Again, the children do have to have social security numbers, but the parents or caregivers do not. So that's the resource there. And again, you'll have all of this at your disposal. You want to go to the next one. One way to help people a lot, you know, major thing, get them connected to the tax preparation help that we've just shown you all those links for, but it would also be very helpful to give them a checklist of all the documents that they'll have to have available in order to successfully file. This link has exactly that. So for instance, if you were in touch with a person directly and want to say, hey, this is something could help you, you could give them a flyer and you could give them this list of the documents that they'll need, and that'll put them way ahead of the game to successfully file. So you can go to the next one. One way of speeding or simplifying things for folks, the IRS had sent letters, which they gave a number to, and that's the number, saying how much they received in those advance payments of the child tax credit. There's been some confusion here. So the amount may not match what the family thinks they received. And here's a link to an online account that should show what the family actually received. If that in most cases will be more up to date, and the family should use that amount when they file their tax form, because the IRS form will ask, how much have you already received in the child tax credit, in order for them to figure out how much you should receive in the end of year refund check. One of the complications is if there's a mother and a father who have filed jointly, the IRS has sent each of them one of these letters, and they split it. So let's say they have one child and that child got $1,800 in advance payments, they told each parent they got $900. And that has been a source of confusion, because for the joint filing, altogether that'd be $1,800. So that will take a little explaining, but the key element here is the link. If people are confused, if they go to that online account, they can find out a probably accurate assessment of what they have already received. And again, if they haven't received anything, then this they won't have gotten this letter, and they just have to file. So let's see, go to the next slide.
I can take it from here, Deb.
Okay. So that, is a run through of why this matters. Julia, tell us about the barriers and the information we can provide.
Great, thanks so much, Deb. And if people have questions, please do, you can, I think, feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat, and we would love to hear from you. I'll just go quickly through some of the common questions that we've been receiving from families and from service providers, and say at the outset that all of this information is included in the resource toolkit that I'll preview at the end. One of the big questions that we get is whether receiving the CTC will impact other public benefits. And so we just want to say very clearly that getting the child tax credit will not change any federally funded public benefits that a family receives. So Social Security, SNAP, WIC, etc. And getting those doesn't impact somebody's ability to get the child tax credit. Another concern that we sometimes hear is people worrying that they'll have to pay this money back. And so, this money is not a loan. It's not taxable income. There's sort of confusion around that. There are some situations in which a family could get paid more than that amount to which they're entitled. For example, if they have a really dramatic increase in their income, or the number of kids that are their dependent changes. Even in those cases, though, there are protections for families making below the levels here from paying back either the full amount or paying back part of what they were overpaid. And so I won't spend too much time on this, but this is included in our FAQ and is a common question that we receive. Another common question we get from people is, I haven't filed tax returns in a while. I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble, or I'm going to owe a lot of money. I always say here, we're not tax advisors, and people will ultimately make the decision that that they're comfortable with. But there are some important points here that we want to keep in mind. One is that for families who are with low income, so this year, if someone makes under $18,800 as a head of household, or a little over $25,000 as a married couple, they're not actually required to file. And that might have been the case in the past as well. Even if they were required to file, generally there's no penalty for not filing if someone is owed a refund. And in fact, people can still claim the refund to which they're entitled for the past 3 years. So a lot of VITA sites can help people file a return, not only for this year, but for past years, so that they can claim all the money that they can potentially receive. We know some people might know that they owe taxes or they owe child support. If they file taxes and they get, to the example that Deb had earlier, almost $10,000, that money would go toward paying off that amount that they owe. And then just two final common questions before we turn to outreach are connected to immigration. Under current law, receiving the child tax credit doesn't impact somebody's ability to get a green card. It's not considered in public charge determinations. And the IRS has very strict kind of information sharing rules. There are very limited exceptions to this, but in general, the IRS can't share information about a taxpayer with other agencies, including immigration enforcement. And again, all of this information is in our FAQ, which brings us to our toolkit. We'll share this out with all of you after, along with the slides and the recording. But wanted to just give a little overview of what is in this toolkit and how you can all do outreach around this. So just a little bit about outreach. And if some of you are already talking to clients and to families about this, we would love to hear what's working for you and maybe what's not working. If you're willing to share, this is how we continue to learn and support others. What we have experienced is that when outreach is integrated into existing programs and communications, it's most effective, in large part because we know you all have a lot on your plate. And so it's not possible to start a whole other program. And so we have designed our toolkit and pulled it together so that as you're doing intakes or you're having an event or you're sending out resource packets, you can integrate all of this into what you're already doing. We know that families are more likely to take steps to claim the credit when they receive information, obviously in a language they understand, and they receive it multiple times. So sending a mass text message once helps, and sending it a second time helps more. Raising awareness isn't enough, and so we really want to make sure that outreach includes a clear referral. So Deb shared earlier that get your refund link. Maybe you have a local VITA site that you're working with, making sure that a text message says this is happening and this is where you can go to get the support is really, really important. We know that outreach works well when it contacts a lot of families, and then maybe there's more targeted follow-up with those who are most likely to miss out on the credit or most likely to benefit. We've also learned, and this is probably not very surprising to those on this call, that school districts and government benefits agencies are particularly trusted sources of information. We've seen text messages be most helpful, but robocalls, emails, mailers can be most effective. And I think everyone here sort of knows best what sort of the best ways to communicate with families in their network. And we know that in addition to hearing from all of you, that families might need to hear from tax, immigration, or family law experts. So with all of this in mind, we've developed a toolkit, and I'm just going to give a sample of some of the materials in it. Our toolkit includes sample text messages, robocalls, emails. This is one example. We actually have this available in 11 languages. So the hope is that you can take this, copy and paste it. If your agency has the capability to send out a mass text message or email or record a robocall, this makes that very easy to do. Again, we know that sometimes someone's not available to answer the phone right away, and there might be a hold line. And so recording a message about the child tax credit and how you can get help claiming it. Our toolkit includes flyers and posters. I believe it's up to about 15 languages now, and that includes both customizable flyers if there's somewhere really specific you want to point people to, and then this get your refund one, which if you're not sure where else to point people, that's really the starting point that we recommend. Other ways that people can do outreach is integrating a question about the CTC and intake. If you're sending out resources to families or to children, including resources like the FAQ. As I mentioned before, we know that benefits agencies and school districts are very effective messengers, and that some of you might work closely with schools or county or state benefits agencies. And so really encouraging them to participate with you in this outreach. If they can all send a text message to families in the district or to beneficiaries, that's hugely impactful. And fortunately, us, along with our partners, have tried to make this very easy by creating a toolkit specifically for public benefits agencies. And in the toolkit that we shared here and that we can put in the chat, you'll actually see a link to the public agency toolkit. We have social media and newsletter information in our toolkit. And then we know that some groups, I was just on another call, and there was a group that works primarily with refugees, and they were actually organizing a phone bank. So they were going to call through all of their clients and let them know about the child tax credit. For groups that want to kind of take an extra step, they want to raise awareness and really connect people, these are other options. They can do phone banking or texting. They can hold a Q&A with a tax specialist, immigration attorney, maybe a family law attorney. That can be online or in person. They can help families schedule VITA appointments. We've seen this be really important if maybe a VITA site doesn't have the scheduler speaks only English, and so other groups can support with that language access, and also supporting individuals in filing their taxes by preparing the documents that they'll need. So these are just examples, and all of this is in our toolkit. I wanted to, oh, that's moving in the wrong direction here. I'm gonna go backwards for a second just to show one quick thing in the toolkit, and then I think we'll pause for any Q&A. In the toolkit, can people see the toolkit if I don't know,
Yeah.
hopefully you can see that. Okay, great. This is how it is. I just wanted to note that anything that's available in Spanish is written in red. So if you scroll down, you'll see a lot of it now is available in Spanish. And then we also have this little globe symbol for anything that's available beyond English and Spanish. So that's not to say that everything is translated, but we're working on getting more and more translated. And we hope that that's really supportive. So I'm trying to figure out how I can get back to my presenter mode, but that's okay. I'll just put my email in the chat and stop sharing my screen for right now. But I think we were going to pause there unless Deb, you have anything to add, or Liz, and just see if people have any sort of reactions to this or questions. And I'm also going to put in the chat my email in case anyone has follow-up questions. I'll also put in the resource toolkit. There's the resource toolkit. As someone said on a recent training, hopefully the fact that there are no questions means we answered every possible question you all have. But we'll give it a few seconds in case other questions do emerge. And also my contact information is here in case people have questions after the fact. And if anyone here is already doing this work and wants to share, we definitely welcome that as well. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, that Kim, I appreciate what you just put in the chat, that it would be real helpful to us if any of you either could talk about outreach plans that you have or may have already done in the earlier rounds when we were trying to get people signed up for the advance credit, or things even that might stand in your way. If we knew about them, maybe we could come up with some resources that would be helpful.
I've just put in the chat again my email, but also to Deb's point and to Kim's point, an outreach sign-up form that we've created. So if any of you want to commit to doing certain activities and want our support, you can indicate that on this form. But also if there's something you're already doing and you want to uplift that and share that with other groups, there's also an opportunity to select that in the form. So we can send this out via email also as well. Great. Well, if nothing else, I don't know, Liz, is there anything else on your end? We can pause for, but if not.
I just want to say thank you so much to both of you. This is great information, and yes, thank you. Great point, Kim. Please feel free to share this throughout your organizations and with your colleagues, or for anyone who you think may benefit from this, and maybe working a little bit more closely with the families that can claim this really critical benefit. So, and yeah, like we said, we'll be sharing all the resources, the slides, recordings for you to share as well. But we just really appreciate it. It's really great information from both of you.
Well, thank you very much. Just to kind of flag that in that toolkit, as Julia showed you, there are lots of ready-made materials, including a flyer, for example, that has a blank space in it that you can include something specific that you're aware of, if you've heard of or can even schedule a in-person, here's how you can claim your tax credit meeting, or just put the location of the nearest VITA site. You can do that and not have to create a whole flyer, just use the blank space. There's a lot of materials here, and the basic message is pretty simple. Get to getyourrefund.org. That can get people connected so they can then take that next step and file and get this money that'll help them. So thank you very much for anything that you can do, and contact Julia if you think of questions after this or any way that we can be helpful.
Great. Thanks, Deb, and thanks, everyone.